I want us to become brothers again like we used to be, and for us to find ourselves and bond with each other. Can we agree to that?
Opinions vary.
All right, guys. It's the first summer in a number of years where there's been a lot of new releases, and I've seen most of them. So I'm actually just curious, what did you think of the summer? What hit for you? What worked? What didn't? Were there any surprises?
I also saw most of the big movies this summer. I missed a couple in the early May releases, so I still haven't seen as of this point Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or say Disney's Little Mermaid, which were pretty big box office hits.
Yeah, I admittedly did not catch those either, and I still have not seen Barbie, so I'll just take myself out of that part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, but I made sure I saw all some of the other big summer movies. It kind of conformed to my expectations in some ways, in terms of.
So that means what's
the ones that I thought I was gonna like. I mostly liked. Oppenheimer for me was the big highlight. I enjoyed but have reservations about Barbie. I enjoyed but have reservations about the seventh Mission Impossible film. I thought The Flash was garbage, as we did on our podcast. And we talked about Asteroid City. So we've also been able to talk about quite a few of these on the podcast. Maybe the biggest surprise for me, because it was so overhyped and I was sort of inclined to be more down on it, was I still really look back fondly Across the Spider-Verse as one of my favorite films this summer, as entertainment and a family film. So
even though, I mean, that was a movie that's quite, highly praised, but kind of in spite of that, you were still surprised.
In spite of that, I still liked it. Yeah. I've been listening to the soundtrack and stuff.
All the people who thought it was the greatest movie ever made just moved on to thinking Barbie's the greatest movie ever made. So.
Exactly. So now I can have Spider-Man to myself.
Exactly.
Do you also? What's your top, Aaron? Then.
Oh, Oppenheimer is far and away the best movie this summer. But in terms of these big releases, there's some other movies that I'm not going to count as summer movies because they're just indies that I happened to see in the summer because that's when they were released. But I think Spider-Verse might actually be the other best movie this summer, in that it's just really confident and really, I don't know. It's the rare moment where after we saw it, we came out of the theater and me and my wife were like, this is the rare superhero movie where I'm invested in these characters and I want to know what happens next to them. Where I think they set up a cool enough world where I'm like, okay, I want to see a little bit more and I want to see what happens. Because the movie also ends on a big cliffhanger, which is a very intriguing cliffhanger. And it's probably the only movies that are dealing with multiverses where it's conceptually interesting, but it's also actually fun.
And visually cool what they do with it. Yeah.
But that whole end, I guess you haven't seen it yet, Anton, but there's this
I haven't. I finally saw the first one, so
there's this ending. There's this ending that kind of assembles various of the characters for something that they're going to clearly do in the next one. I was like, oh, I'm actually excited by a little team up moment. It's just funny with superhero movies. I'm just not used,
Just when you thought you were out, they draw you back in.
But it's also because Spider-Man's always I find it very easy to be invested in a Spider-Man movie.
I also think that the film's the fact that it's animated and sort of in a very idiosyncratic style helps it stand out from it has a confidence of its visual and sort of experimental style, if you want to call it that not a lot of superhero movies are willing to do. Maybe only Zack Snyder or someone like that is willing to go that with their palette and what they're trying to do. And it's not going to be for everybody, but I enjoyed it. I'm still trying to. I need to rewatch Asteroid City after our last podcast. But
so I also would say Oppenheimer is my favorite of the summer. I'm also wondering if I feel some of my surprises are kind of they're a little bit muted in the sense of I ended up liking Indiana Jones somewhat when I was kind of expecting to really dislike it. And Asteroid City, I kind of didn't like, or at least had a very middling view when I sort of just assumed I would like it a bit more. So that was some of my responses. I found Mission Impossible is probably one of my top of the summer, even though I have huge reservations about the length. But there's just like aspects of that I really liked, and I'm just really pleased with like Tom Cruise's and Christopher McQuarrie's commitment to like what they're doing with the action and the stunts.
Well, the thing about that movie is like, is there's just really like, I can quibble with it, and you know, I didn't rank it as highly on my re-ranking of the Mission Impossible films and all that, but I don't think there's anything I dislike about it.
So then the other question, so my other top film of the summer that I saw Sound of Freedom, and I actually thought that's one of my top movies of the year. I think Oppenheimer's better, but it's also a movie that I give kind of like a 9 out of 10 ranking. I thought it was like an excellent drama, like very intense, and
I missed it. It was at the Princess here locally for a while.
Yeah, there's a few cinemas locally that played it, but it's like, right, like you're dealing with like child trafficking and stuff, and because this became kind of like, you know, a politicized film, I feel like it obscures like what actually really works about this film. And I'm working on a piece about this being a movie that's like, it's more than just like kind of a statement movie, right? The movie and the filmmakers are obviously concerned with like this, you know, this real life problem, and are you trying to use this story to galvanize stuff on that? But setting that aside, you're like, this is actually an interesting made film, and for nothing, for the most important reason, I just thought is like, this is a movie that's extremely interested in controlling how it represents things on screen. Like you're dealing with trafficking and how that relates to things like pornography and stuff like this. So it's a film that, like, surprisingly, it's actually not like a vigilante movie in the sense that we like are supposed to get pleasure from like seeing people taken down. And there's so many scenes in the film where it, like, the way it controls what it represents is clearly thought out because it's avoiding or is trying not to sensationalize things. And so overall, the tone reminded me a lot of Denis Villeneuve's earlier sort of thrillers, where it's just like it has an overwhelming, somber, dark like view of things, and it's very well shot. It has elements of sort of like a Fincher film look to the way it shoots the shadows, and I just thought it was really excellent and really moving. And I guess the other movie, I'm not sure if we count it as summer, but it was back early in May, but I saw it this summer. Would like Blackberry be a summer movie? Kind of at the very beginning.
I would consider it a spring movie ultimately. Okay. I don't know, because I feel like Memorial Day kicks off.
Okay, we're saying Memorial Day. Okay.
I mean, I know but I feel like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of kicks off the summer.
Yeah. Because Blackberry was one of the better movies I watched this summer. I wholeheartedly enjoyed and thought it was a really smart movie.
Yeah. So I'm very curious about Sound of Freedom. I'm exhausted by the discourse in a similar way that I'm exhausted by the Barbie discourse. Like,
absolutely. I actually think the discourse isn't doing the film any favors, because it's on a certain level, it's actually a lot of fun and all that.
But it's also
this insistence of making it more than what it is.
But it's also the reaction of the discourse where you get the stupid politicization of everything. So you get Ben Shapiro's weepy 45-minute Barbie hates men video, but then you also get and then on the flip side, you get liberals, weepy-eyed Sound of Freedom videos, and it's just like, why are you people such freaks when it comes to movie? Like, can't you just watch the movie? Like, they haven't even seen it, you know that. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's just about whatever generating the political content to get the money. But I'm just curious though, Anton, with Sound of Freedom, because am I correct in hearing though that the filmmaker of it is like slightly annoyed by the politicization of the narrative around it, and like some of Caviezel's like promotion of it? Because I've just heard some things where he was like being annoyed about it becoming a bit of a distraction from it as a movie.
It's possible. I actually I couldn't say. I actually hadn't heard that much about the director, because he hasn't really been involved in sort of like some of the promotional stuff. There's one of the actors who plays sort of a supporting character is one of the producers, and I think he's one of the big promotional people in the movie. I think he himself is personally like a very wealthy person too, and sort of has helped try to boost the film. But the film has a very because it's hard, because you're like, the film was made like years ago.
Yeah.
Like not even like a couple years, like I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago type thing, like production wrapped up. And then it basically just couldn't get released. It was purchased by Disney, and Disney did not want to put it out. And then at one point they were trying to like raise funds to just, and then the people, right, Angel Studios, which makes that the Jesus TV show, crowdsource, the Chosen.
Oh, The Chosen.
Then basically bought like the movie to release it itself.
Yeah, I was liking the reading about the Paul Schrader's like interest in just it as a purely like non-studio driven success story.
I should definitely check out Schrader's comments on it, because also it's the kind of movie that or does actually remind me of like a lot of Paul Schrader's films too, because it's just such like a somber, dark film. But what I just find interesting about it, right? Like this movie could be done in so many different ways, and I think it makes the right choices. But yeah, like I don't actually know what the
I was just curious because
yeah.
I know Caviezel's an interesting guy, but he's also a kooky dude in some of his comments in public and stuff. And so I don't know if he does it any favors in terms of depoliticizing some of the commentary around it, but that's just the nature of all these things. It is funny how this summer has several big success stories across different like levels of the industry too. Which
makes it which points to
makes it feel more full.
Kind of just the cinema side of things. This is why this is like this is our return to like what summer movies were, where you would get, you'd be assessing whether the big, which of the very big tentpoles was going to be the one or the two that carry the season. What's going to be the underdog, right? So Sound of Freedom is definitely the underdog, right? It's almost made like 200 million now off of its budget. It's one of those movies that has an enormous production cost to gross level, and basically spread largely through just like word of mouth and kind of like influencers rather than basically no marketing.
Yeah, and like church groups and stuff.
Yeah. But then Barbie like put like put how much, like, hundreds of millions into his marketing, right? It put so much into his marketing, but it's hugely paid off.
Oh yeah, it created an actual cultural event purely through saturation, which is interesting in and of itself.
It's the first thing I can remember in a long time where every single mainstream publication media thing was consumed with like a movie. Whereas it was very much, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, like I'll just set that aside. But like basically anything that was like related to our sort of corporate legacy media was Barbie consumed for like weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been like a long time since I remember a movie like dominating things on that level.
Aaron, I'm curious because you see so much more than the rest of us. What are one or two other films people should seek out that maybe weren't the blockbusters?
Some of them aren't really worth mentioning. Like in terms of blockbusters, I did see so despite The Flash, I know you guys did not like it. Like you were very negative on it, and I was kind of mixed on it. But the movie that I found more disappointing was Fast X. I actually thought it was like, because of how much I like some of the other Fast and Furious movies, I was just like, this is. I was so annoyed by the fact that the movie just ended. No, it's the worst. It's the worst one.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah. But like the movie just ends. And it's not like compared to Spider-Verse where I'm like, oh, I'm pumped for like what the next one could be. I was actually baffled in the theater. I like sat there and I was like, did that just end? Like, like it, there's
they
no
literally
like
cut
structure.
The movie in half. Yeah.
It's just like, you just like took a machete and you cut it. Like, but I saw some of the smaller movies too. Like in our preview episode, I mentioned Past Lives and this kind of debut feature by Celine Song, and it's about like a Korean American woman and her like relationship with her like childhood sweetheart who like it connects with them every like 10 years. So it's like it's them as children, and then it catches up and they reconnect via Skype, and then it's them like now, and it's just these tiny little moments, and it's almost like the entire Before trilogy condensed into like one movie. But it's one of those films that's a little more like conceptually interesting than it's good. It's just like, it's one of those films that so many, I think, film fans, especially film people who are like into understated drama, love the idea of a movie like implicating something, but you're like, no, this movie doesn't really implicate stuff. It kind of just has the characters talk it out in the film, and that's that. So like, there's not. It's very like tastefully done, and actually really good performances, especially from the guy in it, the Korean actor. He's just, I don't know. He's got like a pretty. His name's Yu Teo, and his like, I don't know. He's just got this kind of like puppy dog expression that is really interesting because it's like a pained like happiness. It's his performance is one of the better ones this year. And then I also saw the Nicole Holofcener film "You Hurt My Feelings" with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, you did see it, yeah.
Is a fun movie. It's one of those. It's filling the void of where like Woody Allen movies used to be in the past, where just like, oh, it's an adult comedy that's not. It's not like coarse or anything. It's just about adult situations, and it's fun because it's a movie about marital, not strife, but like a marital problem that's not like about an affair. The movie never really doubts that like these characters are like gonna stay married or like love each other and stuff. It's just about like what are the like small problems that can become big problems in a marriage.
Yeah.
And I thought Julie Louis-Dreyfus she's like the best, right, in terms of female comedians. And then Tobias Menzies is actually like very amusing in it too. So, but it's fun to watch like a 90-minute movie that Woody Allen used to give us. And then
Are you
I also
catch anything else this summer, you guys?
I also saw Talk to Me, and that's, as I said, every year has a horror movie that's worth probably watching just in late August. But I don't know if there's anything else. Like I want to catch up with Sound of Freedom. That's kind of the like big summer release that I want to see still. I don't even know what else is really coming until
I'm kind of curious about Gran Turismo.
Oh, actually, no, I am. But the movies that I'm starting to get excited about is the
Neil
fall.
Blomkamp? What?
Yeah, exactly. And Orlando Bloom. Rewatching the Pirates movies this summer, I'm like, Orlando Bloom's awesome. Why don't we never gave that guy his props? Oh, Anton, is there anything you?
No, like there wasn't much else that I'd seen. My boys with my wife saw Ninja Turtles and they liked it, but like I can't speak to whether it's actually good or not.
The animation looked cool.
Yeah, like it just didn't work out for me to see it, but it looked interesting, and because I'd recently rewatched the live action Ninja Turtles. The first one is a legitimately solid, actually very good movie. The other two, not so much, but still fun. But I was intrigued by the animation style. I think Jackie Chan is Splinter, and I feel like I don't know what to make of that. Like
that seems like cultural issue.
Yeah, I just feel like trying to blend together like China, Japan. I feel
it's like the same thing they did in remaking the Karate Kid, but it's kung fu.
Yeah, no, like I just feel like, given the history and the societies, you're like, I'm not sure what you should do that, but
yeah. But it's overall, it has felt like an actual real summer, which is nice.
Yeah,
you go to the movie theaters, they're full. I went to going to see Talk to Me. It was sold out every single seat, and it's just like, that's weird. It's August, but people want to go to the movies.
So unrelated then to the moment, but last question: this summer, is there an old movie that you watched that you are like, wow, I'm finally glad I caught up with this? Again, it has no relevance to whether, our actual time period, but is there any like discovery you came across?
I've watched so few movies this summer, honestly. It's just, I don't know. I've just been busy with other stuff.
Well, you've seen basically all the new.
But that's like all I've seen.
Yeah.
After I finished the big summer movies, seeing like, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Barbie, I kind of went on a week where I just did a bunch of what I call like kind of like dad movies, like real guy. Maybe after Barbie, I had to really like invest in like masculinity. I rewatched Heat because I also out at camp read Michael Mann's Heat 2.
Oh yeah, the novel, right?
Which is great.
And you said they're making a movie?
Yeah, he says he's going to make it as his next movie after Ferrari. I watched Clint Eastwood's Tightrope, based partly on Aaron's review of that. And then I revisited Assault on Precinct 13 because I always need some John Carpenter. But of an old movie that was new to me that I watched was John Huston's The Misfits, which was on Criterion in July, and I really, really liked that. It's a great cast. It's Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable, both their last film. It's written by Arthur Miller, her husband. But I was more especially struck. I mean, they're both very good, and especially Monroe. She's great at the end of her career there. But Eli Wallach is really great in that. He plays kind of this like character Guido. He's like kind of like, as I said in my letterbox, he kind of sets the template for every Joe Pesci character in the future. The kind of little Italian guy with a chip on his shoulder. And then also Montgomery Clift, who I haven't watched a lot of his movies. He's really great in that as well. So it's a kind of a neo-Western elegy for the Western set in the, late 50s, early 60s, and in Reno, Nevada.
Oh, cool.
And, yeah.
My big finally saw is finally watched Dog Day Afternoon, and I feel like it's one of those movies where you're like, it's kind of on the obvious list of when you're watching like 70s movies, and for some reason I just never watched it. It was leaving Criterion. I was like, I just got to finally watch this, and it's basically what I expected. It's a very good movie. Pacino, delivers. It's actually a great Pacino performance, but it's people are right that it's sort of it's the most of the 70s performances that's leaning towards where he goes later in his career, because it's like the most volatile, given also like, right, like it's like hostage bank robbery situation, but like, so it gives him, you're starting to see him, right? This is not, the understated Michael, in The Godfather, where you're like, oh, that's Pacino. But like, it's starting to have him like blow up, and like when he's like walking out in front of the he's walking out in front of the bank and like trying to like work the crowds up, you're like, oh, this is like the classic Pacino of sort of like 80s 90s, where it's just like like shouting at people.
Honestly, like I love Heat. I love it. It's such a great film. But like Pacino's bordering on like so over the top. Like some of the lines, like I was thinking that one, he's like, "I told you, baby, when we started this, that you were gonna have to share me with all the freaks."
Well, I mean, yeah, the classic for that, honestly,
especially with Neil McCauley being like this, like stone faced kind of like.
When I watched Scarface with my wife once, she was like I feel like she didn't think, like she was like, this movie's taken seriously. I was like, this movie's great, but like it is like so over the top in everything, and Pacino's performance is insane. But yeah, no, but like it's the originator of that, and then right, it's just if you haven't seen it, it's just pure Hollywood in the 70s, so definitely worth checking out for that.
It's got John Cazale.
Yeah, and he only made a few movies. Only did great movies, and basically was nominated for almost every movie, right?
The movies were all nominated for Best Picture. That's the thing.
It's like the most brilliant, like minor career, tragically short career, but like, it's the best you could have for a short career. Well, on that note, thanks for listening, and check us out next week.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
I bid you farewell.